What you gonna do when Giant Ogre run wild on you, brother? Welcome to Duelist. This is Team No Scrubs, a channel which, despite its name, is actually run by what the Yu-Gi-Oh community considers as scrubs. My name is Eros and I want to welcome you here to the very first video on this channel. And today I actually want to profile one of my favorite decks of all time, and a deck that helped me make, well, the first place in a, casual tournament, because you know, the whole No Scrubs thing. But today I want to talk to you about Goukis. Now, why Gouki specifically? I took this deck, took first place, and I thought it would be a great way to talk about it, because Goukis has very untapped potential. We already know the, mess Gouki made very long ago when Firewall was legal, but here's the thing, that wasn't Gouki, that was Firewall Roly-Poly Spam. But this is pure Gouki at its finest, or as I like to call it, Giant Ogre Turbo. I'm very glad that Giant Ogre is finally gaining recognition just because it actually is a very, very powerful card. And this deck that I have is mostly centered around bringing it out. Now, before we go to the deck profile, I first really want to start with what the deck is all about and its strengths and weaknesses. Now, Gouki at its core is a very aggro deck and a very combo heavy deck. With such cards such Junk Forward and Isolt, of course the deck has very, very much potential, and with the unlimited amount of warriors out there, this deck really can make a very, very big impact. For some of its strengths, it is a very aggressive deck and a very combo heavy deck, so it can make an incredibly powerful board with things like Giant Ogre, with things like Isolt, and the other plethora of very powerful link monsters it can make. It also is very consistent and recursive. That's mostly because mostly all the Gouki monsters float, so you can always go into a new card. That is what makes it so very fast. It's also very fast paced, and you most likely want to win the duel in about a couple of turns. You have the potential for to OTK, but I haven't really gotten to there. But with a powerhouse as big as Giant Ogre, that is definitely a potential. So it's very, very fast, it's consistent, and of course recursive, and there's a lot of floating possibilities. So it's a very, absolutely, if you love combo heavy decks, you're sure to love Gouki. Now, for some of its weaknesses, the deck really doesn't do well when it goes into the grind game. If it takes so long, you can run out of resources to add with Gouki cards, and that leaves you kind of sitting duck with cards that you don't really need or can't really use at that moment. Also, it really is susceptible to hand traps, things like Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, Ghost Ogre, you name it. All those cards. That's why we play free Call of the Grave in the deck, because if you get Ash, then at the wrong moment it can really completely shut down the deck, and that is a really, really big problem. So mostly it's just the grind game doesn't really do very well, and if Giant Ogre gets somehow rid of the field, then you basically don't really have much options to bring it back. So that's really where the deck very, very slightly falters. So if you go up against a deck like Altergeist or Group Control, you might not really have a great matchup right then and there. So that's where it really, really falls short. The grind game is absolutely killer for this deck, and it won't really work. But aside from that, it's still a very, very fun deck. It's technically not considered rogue or meta or in any form of tier right now, but it's still a very fun deck with a very powerful boss monster that's kind of unexpected. So I'd say I'd spoken enough about this issue, so now let's get right over to the deck profile. So everyone, right here we have the deck profile, this wonderful deck profile. I've been playing Goukis for a while now. I've always loved the recursion that the deck offers. I love the playstyle, I love the design, and with the rise of Giant Ogre now, which has been out for a long while now, I feel like the deck really has some potential to do some great things. What great things? Well, we'll have to see what the future holds. But for now, let's go into the deck profile and see what it is. We'll start off with the free offs. We play, of course, 3 copies of Gouki Super X, 3 copies of Gouki Twist Cobra, and 3 copies with Gouki Headband. Now, this is the reason I play free up. Super X is the obvious free off because he allows you an extra special summon when he's normal summoned. Twist Cobra is just great for the attack raising bonus, and it's just a name. And Headband can be easily special summoned by discarding a Gouki from your hand. Plus it gives also a power boost to potentially Giant Ogre, which is never a bad thing. So these 3 I always play as a free off. You could argue that you could play 2 Headbands instead of 3, but I feel like Headband is so important just because it's a free special summon, and it really helps out in a lot of situations. Twist Cobra is mostly there because it's a name. You don't really use this effect, but you don't really need to. But if you can, it's always a good thing. It's simply a name, it's discard fodder, it's a special summon of a Super X. That's the only free off copies that I have of the Goukis in this deck. For all the other cards, we play 2 copies of Octo Stretch. This is your Isolde target most of the times. I'll probably take out one and put in a new Gouki Guts when it arrives in Eternity Goat later, but we'll have to wait for that for a while. But yeah, I play 2 because, well, if you draw into one, then if you only play 1, if you draw into 1, then it's not a good thing. This is literally your only Isolde target. Technically, Headbed is also a target, because I play 2 equips well, so you can also summon Headbed with it. But why not? Auto Stretch is easier, plus it's also I also like to have one in my hand as a spare in case my opponent tries to attack me with big damage, because this card, people forget this effect a lot, but when you take battle or effect damage, you can simply send this card to the graveyard, half that damage. Now for the one-off Goukis, we play 1 copy of Gouki Rise Scorpio, 1 Gouki Bearhawk, and 1 Gouki Moonsault. Now Rise Scorpio is pretty simple, you can summon it without tribute if you control the monsters or if you only control Gouki monsters. Bearhawk, when special summoned by a Gouki effect, allows you to half the attack with some monster. They all have the floating ability, pure standard. Moonsault is an interesting choice that I don't see a lot of people play, and I don't know so well. What's so fun about this card is because it gives you back more resources. Unlike other Goukis, this Moonsault doesn't have the floating effect, but its other effect really makes up for it. It's very simple actually. Well, you can reveal this card in your hand, target 1 Gouki monster in your field, special summon this card, and then return that Gouki back to your hand. So I usually mostly use it to recycle Suprex and all that stuff. And also you can recycle your Link monsters, because you can return 1 Gouki Link monsters in your graveyard back to your extra deck, and then add a Gouki monster from your graveyard to your hand. So it's really good for a recursion. It sucks that it doesn't really have the floating effect, but it really works out well with the deck, and at a one-off it really helps me out a lot, and I really think people don't really give it the credit it deserves, because it's actually pretty good. So that's all the Goukis we play. As you can all see, of course, we don't really play much Goukis, but you don't really need to, because of course the space in the deck is limited and you don't always have everything. So this is a perfect standard. If you want to change anything, you can remove 1 Headbed and add 2. I feel like Suprex and Twist Cobra are essential at 3, but you can do with the second Headbed. But this is just my personal opinion. I prefer 3. For a little bit of the Warrior engine, we have 3 copies of Junk Forward and 3 copies of Blue Mountain Butterfly. This is actually just very simple. Junk Forward is a free special summon, and Blue Mountain Butterfly is also a free special summon when you normal summon a Warrior monster. This is mostly for Isolde play or additional Link plays like the Nightmares. So yeah, basically that's all that needs to be said there about it. We do play a couple of hand traps. We play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, pretty standard, pretty generic. And fun thing, 2 copies of Nibiru the Primary Mineral. Now why do I main deck Nibiru? Well, mostly because Gouki is mostly a going second deck. I mean, it can go either first or second. I mostly go first because you can send up Giant Ogre. But if you go second, and Gouki can go second since it's a beatdown deck, Nibiru can really help when your opponent starts making wood. Now I haven't really used Nibiru that much. I've never really had a chance because I haven't gone up against a deck that special summon so much so, because, well, it was a casual tournament and meta decks are not allowed there. So yeah, but Nibiru has always been, I'm always iffy about main or side decking, but when I play a deck that I know is mostly aggro based and can go second, I mostly just main deck it and then side deck it out for something else, just in case. You can put Draw and Lockbird in here if you want to take a deck such as this to a big event, because Spiral really dies to Draw and Lockbird. Nibiru also helps, but yeah. It also gives them a very, very big token. But I, as a rule of thumb, always play Nibiru in any deck that mostly goes second or is aggro, which is most of my decks, but still. But this is just a personal preference option. For the spells, we play 3 Gouki Rematch and 1 Gouki Face Turn. I can't wait for the new finish to come out, but yeah. Rematch is pretty solid. Rematch is the hardest of the deck. Most people play 2, I play 3 because this card is just amazing. Special summon 2 Goukis with different levels from your graveyard in defense mode. You can only use 1 Rematch per turn. Face Turn allows you to go attribute a Gouki monster on your field and special summon a different one from your graveyard. So it's excellent for sending a Gouki to the graveyard, getting its search effect, and then returning Giant Ogre. I can return Giant Ogre with this. This whole deck is basically a Giant Ogre base. So yeah, very simple, very straightforward. For some stable cards, 3 Call by the Grave. This deck dies to hand traps like crazy, so Call by the Grave is essential. 2 copies of Instant Fusion. I play 2 Instant Fusion cards in my extra deck, and I'll get to that when I get to it. So this is just to fuse and summon out. You can only, 1 is better, but it's just a free special summon of a Warriors to go into Isolde, so that's why I play 2. You can also play 3, but I just feel 3 is a bit unnecessary. For the equipable cards we play one Divine Sword Phoenix Blade and one Disposable Learning Machine. Divine Sword is obvious because that's what most people with Ice Blade. Plus you can recur it and 300 attack points on Giant Ogre, instantly making him 4300 attack points on your opponent's turn, which is pretty hard to get over. A Disposable Learning device is also fun for attack points, gives 200 attack for every monster in your graveyard, and when this card leaves the field, at the end phase you can set it on the field and then banish it when it leaves the field. It's pretty fun. It's like one of the best equipped spells I've seen in a long time. Sure, you can play something else, but I choose to run this just for fun. And then for the final cards we play the one-offs, one Rhoda because it's mostly a warrior deck, Monster Reborn because, well, let's be honest, it's Monster Reborn, and World Legacy Session, which is an additional Monster Reborn for link text, and we play one trap card, which is the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine, because well, we don't play any traps, and it's for the Azul place. So that was the main deck. Well, let's go into the extra deck. I don't have a side deck in this, because this was a casual tournament, and we don't have side decks. I have side decks for most of my other decks, but not really for this case, but it doesn't really matter. First we have the instant refusal target, one Invoke Dragon and one Dragon is the Wicked Knight. Dragon is the Wicked Knight is just for originality sake, because I love old cards such as this. It reminds me of when I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid. It's so much fun. This is mostly for, as a rule I mostly use, if I go first I'll summon Dragoness, and if I go second and my opponent has a board I'll make a Raijin so I can potentially Book of Moon a monster. So that's really the only reason to play. When the new support leaks I'll probably take out an instant fusion, take out Dragoness and only go for Raijin. Now for the start of the show we have of course Gouki, the Giant Ogre. Now what does this card do? It's actually quite a lot. It cannot be destroyed by battle and is unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent of monsters with attack points less than or equal to this card. It's a whole lot of thing. When your opponent activates a card effect that targets this card or a card that it points to, you can permanently make it lose 500 attack to negate that effect. And when this card's attack points is different than normal, you can give it 1000 attack until the end of the turn. So it's pretty powerful. It's unaffected by most all monster effects, which is what most Yu-Gi-Oh! Is based around now. It's unaffected by anything with 3000 or less attack points. Now, this card is so fantastic because, well, Spyro can't do anything against it because they can't get over it. It's such a powerful monster and really let it fight you like that. Now, on the surface, Giant Ogre is actually pretty easy to deal with if you think about it. You can Kaiju it, you can Dark Hold, you can Raigeki it. All much of non-targeting removal just works. Spell trap removal works fine. Mirror Force can even work. But people don't use it. People don't think about using it. They mostly rely on monster effects nowadays, which is why Giant Ogre is so fantastic in this deck, because it's just that powerful, because you can't get over it. Plus, if you increase his attack with like Headbat or Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, you can always increase his attack, making it even harder to get rid of. So that's what's so fantastic about this card. One copy of Gouki the Master Ogre. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, but it has to attack the monster with the highest attack first. And during either player's turn, you can return any number of Gouki monsters next to its links back to your hand and negate a card effect on the field. So both spell and trap cards. This is if I can. I can make this first turn and just disrupt my opponent if I want to. Follow that up by Gouki Thunder Ogre, which allows you to initial normal summon to a zone that card points to. You can't really go on there, do an extra normal summon, Suprax, special summon another, go into Master Ogre, yeah. One Gouki the Blade Ogre. Gouki the Blade Ogre is really underrated, but I think it's so much fun. This card gains 300 attack for each monster it points to, and you can tribute a monster that it points to, so even when it points to your opponent's field, like this, and it can make 2 attacks. One Gouki the Solid Ogre, which honestly isn't that good, but I like it just because it's fun. Cannot be destroyed well while it points to a Gouki monster, and once per turn I can target a Gouki monster in my main monster zone and move it to a zone discard monster. Yeah, it's not really that good, but it's a name and I think it's fun. Plus it's apparently based on the rock, and I love the rock, so. Then for the final 2 Gouki links, 2 Gouki Jet Ogre. This is the best generic Gouki link 2 that they have. You have Heal Ogre, but that's only useful if you have Topologic Bomber Dragon on your opponent's side of the field. Now for the other monsters we have one Borosword Dragon for the OTK potential, similarly with Crusader Aethermax because it's very easy to be made in this deck. For the Nightmares we have Unicorn, Phoenix and Cerberus, pretty standard. And for the final card we have one Izol, 2 Tales of Noble Dust, the one that starts most of your combos off. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. I'm planning to do a lot more collaborations with other great Yu-Gi-Oh! Players that I know, showing you a variety of deck profiles and also some fun, interesting matchup. So, let me know down below in the comments below what you would like to see and what do you think of this deck profile, and do you have any suggestions for future content. I would love to hear it. This was Eros from Team No Scrubs, and remember, we don't want no scrubs.